As we begin this video, please make sure to copy these lines of CSS from my repository and copy them into your index.css so that whatever we're going to be building in this video is going to behave as you would expect it to behave. The repository is linked in the description and it is called HTML CSS YT. For our next project, we're going to be building a clone of the Google homepage. And before we get started, there are a number of things that we're going to need, such as the images. So I'm going to head over into google.com and then we can begin. Okay, so if you navigate into google.com in your web browser, then this is the page that we're going to be cloning. And the images that I want are this image on the top right, which is the profile image, your profile image. And then we also need this image right here, which is going to be the Google image. And then for this icon right here, we're going to use a CSS file from Font Awesome, which is going to generate this icon for us. And I'm going to show you how we're going to do that. And then we can also get this image by just right clicking on this and saying open image in new tab, which is this carbon image right here. So I'm going to do the same thing for the Google homepage. So open image in new tab. And then for this one as well, I'm just going to say open image in new tab. And you're going to see that we're going to have these images right here. So I'm just going to say right click on them and then I'm going to save them. And then as I save them, I'm going to be saving them inside my workspace inside here. So let me first create a folder here and I'm going to call this project 10. And then I'm going to say Google homepage clone. And then I'm going to be saving these images inside a folder here. So I'm going to create a new folder and I'm going to call this folder images. And then inside this new folder, then I'm going to be saving our images, which we are getting from here. So let me go ahead and do that. Okay, so when you click on save image, then you have to navigate into the folder that you want to save your image. So let me just get it. It should be this one right here. And I'm going to call this carbon because this is the carbon image. And then I'm going to do the same for the Google image. So just save image and say Google. And then for this one, I'm just going to call this profile. So profile. So let's go ahead and we can get started. So inside this main folder, I'm going to right click and say new file. And I'm going to call this file index.html like so. And then you can see that now we have our images folder and then we have our index.html file. And then back inside the root, so right inside here, I'm going to say new file and I'm going to create a styles.css. And then inside my index.html, we can begin working this out. So using emmet, I'm just going to say exclamation and enter. And then I want to link my global style sheet. So link into /index.css. And then link also my styles.css, which we have just created. And then the title for this is going to be Google homepage. And actually, what is the title here? It just says Google. So let's just have Google. Okay, and then inside here, we know that we're going to have some kind of navigation bar here, which I'm going to just place inside the header. And then we have the main section here, and then we have the footer on the bottom. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to have a header here. This header is going to have a navbar, and this navbar is going to have ULs. And this navbar is going to have a UL inside here. And then this UL is going to be list items. So we're going to have 1, 2, 3, and 4. So let me just copy them downwards 4 times. And then this first one is going to be linking into Gmail. So I want to say link href into https://gmail.com. And then I'm going to call this Gmail. And then what I want to do is that when I click on this link, I want it to open on a new tab. So I'm going to say target equals to _ blank. And then this just means that open this link on a new tab. But when you use this to open a link on a new tab, always remember to add this attribute called rel and set it into no referrer. Referrer. Is that how you spell it? No referrer. Let me confirm. No referrer. Okay. So no referrer. And the reason why you have this is to prevent what is called cross-site scripting. So cross-site scripting, it is abbreviated like this, and you can read more about it. And then the next link we're going to have is the images, which just goes into this link right here. Okay, so it just goes into this link, which is the Google images link, and we're just going to link it into google.com. So https://google.com, and then this is just going to say images. And then this third one is going to be interesting because this is a button, right? So when you click on this, it pops this up, it opens this up, right? So what we're going to do is I'm going to have this, and you know what, I've just realized something. I'm going to remove this from here, and then I'm going to place in another div inside the navbar, and then this div is going to have a button, and this button is going to be this icon right here, which we're going to get it. So I'm just going to say icon is here, and then below this div, below this button, we're going to have an article, and then this article is going to be this that it opens up. Okay, so right inside here we're going to have a bunch of things, as you can see, quite a few things. And then outside of this div, I'm going to create another div, and then this other div is going to be a button as well, and then this button is going to be our image, which is our profile image. So I'm going to get it from /images/profile.png, and then below this button I'm going to have an article. And you know what, I'm actually not going to create the article that opens this up, and I don't want to click it because it's going to show all the images that I have, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to remove this from here. And the concept of adding this and adding the toggle for this is the same as we're going to do above, so don't worry about it. So let's go ahead and let's grab a CSS file from Font Awesome. So let's head over into fontawesome.com. So fontawesome.com, and then we can just say go into icons here, so icons, and then we can search for icons. Now what I want to do is I want to grab the CSS file. So I'm going to head over into another website called cdn.js. So cdn, let's say cdn.js.com, and in cdn.js I'm going to search for Font Awesome. So Font Awesome. This their search bar inside here is a bit weird, because when you type fast, like sometimes it doesn't register your keystrokes. So Font Awesome right here, I'm going to copy this link. So copy the link tag, and when you copy the link tag, you can go into the head section of your HTML, and then you can just paste it here. So I'm going to be pasting it below our style sheet because I want this one to load in the last one. So you can go ahead, and if you're willing, you can copy this entire link. You can just pause the video, or you can head over into cdn.js and then just grab it yourself. So I'm going to close this, and then now the icons that we need are going to be quite a few. We first of all need let me close this. Oh, sorry, don't close this. We first of all need this icon here, which is called a bento menu. It's called bento, so bento menu, and let's search for that. And no icons found, so let's search for menu. And it is possible to create this entire thing using CSS, but I don't want to do that. Let's see, we don't have it. You see, something like this is what I want. Something like this is what I want. Okay, so I can't seem to find this icon. So we are just going to create it using CSS. So let's go ahead, and inside here we're going to have, let's see, we're going to have 9 divs. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9, and then inside here, and not really 9 divs, but 9 list items. So I'm just going to have a UL inside here with 9 list items, so li times 9, like so. And then each of these LIs is going to be a dot, which we are going to create. Okay, so inside here, let me give this div a class of bento menu. Okay, and then let's go ahead, and inside here we're going to be adding some things, but we're not going to add them just yet. So let's save this, and then we can begin styling this out. So let's style out the bento menu, and let's just start from the top. So I'm going to set this to the right, to the left, and then this one I'm going to set it to the right, and we're going to have this. Okay, so this is how it looks on mobile screens, and I'm going to start by giving a body the background color of #f1 f1, because if you can tell, this is not completely white. So we're going to have that, and you know what, I've just remembered I need to open this up with the live server so that I can see my changes, and you can see that this is what we have. Okay, And so what we need to do is now we need to remove these underlines from the link. So I'm going to say for the anchor tags, just say text decoration none. And then for the buttons, I want to remove this border that they have by default by saying border none. Okay, that's much better. And then let's go into the header, and then let's say that for the header, let's say display flex, and then I'm going to say align dash items to the center, like so. And then I'm going to say justify content to the flex end so that they go all the way to the end, like so. And then now what we need to do is go into this nav bar, and then we need to display the nav bar as a flux box as well. So header nav, we're going to say display flex so that that happens. And then I'm going to say align items to the center and justify content to the center as well. And that is not correct. This should be flex end as well, flex end. And then we now need to go inside this UL. And then now we need to go inside this UL so that these two links can be displayed as a flex box as well, so that they go in raw form. So for the header nav UL, I'm going to say display flex. There we go. And then we can go into each one of the list items. So for the list items, I'm going to say set a margin on the right of 2 rem to separate them out. Okay, and that is not what I wanted. So I can say margin dash left, set this to auto so that it goes back here, but it doesn't go back here. So I'm going to go back into the UL and say justify content to the flex dash end. And that doesn't work. So adding the margin right pushes this one to this other side. So instead of adding the margin right here, let me add it on the list items, on the links, sorry. So header, nav, ul, li, and for the anchor tags, I'm going to say margin dash right of 2 rem. What does that do? There we go. So we can remove this from here, and then we can remove this from here as well. Yeah. Okay, which means we don't really need this. And then for the anchor tags, I want to change this color into hashtag 333, which is like almost black, but not really black. And then reduce the font size to 0.9 gram. And then I want to access the hover state for this so that when I hover over them, then they're going to have an underline. So I'm going to say on hover, then I want to say text decoration and set this into underline. Okay, so that they're going to have this. Would you look at that? Okay, and this should say 0.9 rem, not 0.9. There we go. And then we can reduce this margin on the right to about 1.5 rem. And then let's go back inside the header and add a bit of padding so that these move inwards just a bit. So inside the header, I'm going to say that set a padding all around of 1.5 rem. Okay, like so. And then now let's access this image, make it a bit bigger, and then make it rounded. So let's get where we have the image, and the image is inside here. So inside the nav bar, we want to access the div, the button, the image. So let's go that for inside the nav bar, we want to access the nav. Inside the header, sorry, we want to access the nav, the div, the button, and then the image inside the button, so that we access this one image. And we are going to say set the width for this into 2 rem. How does that look? Or let's say 4 rem. So let's reduce it to 3, and then we can also set the height to 3 rem so that it's completely square, like so. And then I'm going to say border radius and set this to 50%, which means just make it rounded. And now let's go ahead and create our menu, which is in between this. So let's go above this, and I want to access this div that has a class of bento menu. So I'm going to say that for the header, for the nav, and for the div that has a class of bento dash menu, then I want to access the UL inside and the list items, like so. And for these list items, I'm going to give them a width of 0.2 rem and a height of 0.2 rem. And then I'm going to give them a background dash color of hashtag 333 so that we can see what we have. And you can see that we have each of them are right here, but you can't really see them because we need to display them some kind of way. So I'm going to copy this, and then right above this, I'm going to say display this as a grid. So display as a grid with grid template columns to repeat 3 times and 1 fractional column. And so what it's going to do is that it's going to check for the number of items that are inside here, and it's going to find them as 9, and then it's going to display them as 3 functional columns So the first one, this is going to be the first, the second, the third, and then the fourth, fifth, sixth, and so on and so forth. And then now when you add a gap here of like 0.2 rem, then they're going to separate out, as you can see right there, right? And then now what I want to do is, let me increase this, let me make this bigger into 0.3 rem. There we go, much better. And so now what we're going to do is go inside this div with the class of bento menu. So just copy this and go above this. And then I'm going to say set a margin on the right of, what did I have? 1.5 rem. There we go, to push it downwards. And then here I want this to move, I want this text to move downwards a bit. And then let me show you something interesting that you can do with margins. So you can add negative margins, but you can't add negative padding. So if I want this to move upwards just a bit, I can say set a margin on the top of -1 rem. And that happens, but I don't want it to go by -1 rem. So I want to say like something like 0.5 rem, -0.5 rem. So you can just play around with this, or you can still use Flexbox and Grid to find the correct layout. But as you can see, this works. And then now I want each of these list items to be rounded. So I'm going to go back inside here and say border radius. Set this into 50%. There we go. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to access the hover state of this UL. So for the hover state, I'm going to say on hover. Then see how this looks. Look at this. When I hover over it, then it has like a very slight background, right? So inside here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say for the hover state, I want the background color to be hashtag, let's say 999. How does this look? Save that. And we have that. That's a bit too dark. So let's just use our color picker and just push it upwards right around here. Right around here. And then what we need to do now is inside the UL, we're going to add the padding. So padding, we're going to say padding of 1 rem all round. And that is going to happen. Now look at this. Now the padding is applied on the inside, and now we can see this box much better. But as you can see, 1 rem is a bit too big. So let's say 0.5 rem. Okay. And then we also need this to be rounded. So we're going to say add the border radius of 50% to make it completely rounded. There we go. Okay. And you know what? Let's make this 0.7. Make it just a bit bigger. Okay, fantastic. And then now once we add this in, then it means that we don't need to add the negative margin on top. So we can disable it. And you can see that it looks like this. Okay. There we go. And then now when I hover over this, I want this to change into a cursor of pointer. So inside here, I'm just going to say cursor changes into pointer. So we are going to have this. Fantastic. So this is our header. As you can see, that our header looks quite nice. So next, let's go ahead and deal with our search box, which is this image, and then our search bar right here. So back inside our index.html, I'm going to go right in below the header. So below the header, I'm going to say create a section with a class of search dash bar, so search bar. And then inside here, we're going to have an image which is coming from /images/google.png. And then below this image, we're going to have a form, okay. And then the action for this is not going to be there because the form is not going to be submittable. And then we're going to have an input, so input with a type of search. So you can have a search input with a name of search with an ID of search, like so. You can set, does it have a placeholder? It doesn't, but you can set it to required so that you can't search without typing inside here. So you can just set this into required. And you know what, you can just even remove the required. And you know what, let's just remove it because we don't really need it. And then it doesn't have a submit button, okay. And so what we're going to do is now we need to add in this icon, and we're going to use Font Awesome to do that. So I'm going to add a label, and the label for this is going to go inside the search bar. So when you click on this label, then it's going to highlight the search bar, and then the text inside here is going to be an icon. And using Font Awesome, we can search for an icon called search bar. So search like so, and then you're going to see that we're going to get something like this. So when you click on this icon, you can add it in HTML by using this class. And by the way, I should mention that this class of I, this element of I means italic. Okay, so if you add anything inside the element of I, it's going to be italic. But when you're using Font Awesome, because you have linked it in your HTML, then when you add this in, it's going to create this icon for you. So I'm going to copy this, and then inside here I'm going to paste it in like so, which is going to create a magnifying glass. And then I'm going to save this, and then we can go back into our application right here, and you can see that we have our big Google image, and then we have our search bar right there, our search icon, sorry. Okay, so let's go ahead and style this out. So inside our styles.css, I want to go to the bottom and say that for the dot what was it, search bar, for the dot search dash bar, I want to say I want to access the image inside, and I want to have this image to have a width of let's say 10 rem on mobile. Okay, let's say 20 rem on mobile. Okay, that's too big on mobile. Actually, you know what, we can just check this out. Let's open F12, and then let's go into the responsive tab, and then let's say that for Samsung. Okay, so it's a bit too big, just a bit too big. So let's say about 16 rem. Okay, so that we're going to have this, and then we want to move this to the center, so we can just say text align center here, and sorry, not here, not on the image. So not on the image, but on the search bar for the dot search dash bar, you can just say text align center like so, so that it now moves to the center. Okay, fantastic. And you can see that even on bigger screens that the width is maintained. Now what I want to do is I want to increase this size of this image on larger screens. So I'm going to add is a media query by just copying this downwards, and I'm going to add the at media rule, and I'm going to say that for the main width of 768 pixels, which are tablets, then I want the width of this search bar to increase to 24 rem. Okay, that's much bigger. Fantastic. And so next what I want to do is I want to add a bit of padding on the top and the bottom so that this moves downwards. So inside the search bar, I'm going to say add a padding of 6 rem on the top and bottom and 1.5 rem on the left and right, so that just in case on small devices that this content goes all the way to the end, then they're not going to be touching the edges of the screen. So I'm going to save this, and we're going to have this. Okay, so next let's go ahead and style our form. And first of all, let me add a bit of margin on the bottom of this image to push it away from the form. So I'm going to say margin dash bottom, set this to 2 rem. So let's go inside the form, and I'm going to say for the search bar form, I want to position this as relative like so, and then I want to go inside the label. So for the dot search bar, for the form and for the label, I want to position this label as absolute within the form like so, so that now the label moves inward, as you can see. And then let's access the input for the dot search bar and for the form, and for the input what I want to do is I want to add a padding of 0.625 rem on the top and bottom and 1 rem on the left and right like so. And then I want the width of this to always go to the end, so 100%. Okay, so because I want to limit this just a bit, I'm just going to set a max width here of let's say 700 pixels, and let's see how this looks. So increase this, and look at that, so 700 pixels right there. And you know, 700 is a bit too big, right? Yeah, it's a bit too big. Let's use 600. There we go. And then we want this to be rounded just a bit, just like in the design. So we want it to be rounded just a bit. So let's go ahead and do that by going into this input and saying border radius, setting this to about 30 pixels. There we go. And then we want to remove this border that it has by replacing it with a border of our own. So let's say border 1 pixel solid and hashtag let's use a color called E5, which is still very slightly gray. And you know what, I want to increase the size of this input by increasing the padding. So let's say padding on the top and the bottom right here, let's set it to 1 rem. And now that we have 1 rem and 1 rem, there's no need to repeat it, so we can just have 1 rem all around. Okay, and then when I hover over it, look at this, when I hover over this, it has a box shadow. See that? Okay, so we want to add that as well. So I'm going to access the hover state for the input, and go say that for the colon hover state, then I want the box shadow to be let's say 2 pixels, 2 pixels, 2 pixels, and RGBA 0000.1. Let me see how this looks. Look at that. Okay, and then we can add a slight transition, so I can say transition by 0.3 seconds. So it's going to have that. And by the way, if you don't understand this, the box shadow takes in some properties inside here, some values. So the first one is going to be the horizontal offset, and then the vertical offset, and then the blur radius, and then you can add another fourth value called the spread radius. So how far is the box shadow going to spread? And then the fifth one that you can take in is the color, and I'm adding a transparent color here because if I add the same, then it's just going to be black, which we don't want. So I add an alpha value here so that it's just going to be a bit transparent. What? This is very interesting. So I don't know whether you saw it, but my computer just shut down, and I'm surprised that OBS is still recording. Okay, you know what? I don't trust this, so I'm going to stop it and then I'm going to start again. So something interesting just happened. My computer just shut down by itself, and then when I boot it up, it just placed me back to where I was, and OBS was still recording as well. So I'm just going to continue. So the next thing that I want to do is I want to move this icon downwards and then leftwards. So remember that we positioned it absolutely within the form. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say move it 50% from the top. And is this working? Okay, so 50% from the top right there, and then move it left by, let's say, 1 rem, that it pushes inwards just a bit. And then I'm going to say transform and translate on the y-axis by minus 50%, which is going to move it perfectly to the center. Okay, and then let me check this color. So it is a very slight gray color. So I'm going to say set this color into hashtag E5 E5 E5, like so, and we should have that. That's a bit too dark, so let's say DDD. Still too dark. Let's say what's the next color? DDD. Let's move this downwards right around here. Okay, yeah, that's much better. So we have the Google icon, and then of course you can add this icon if you want. I'm going to leave that up to you. And then below this we have these two buttons, so let's go ahead and create those. So below this search bar we have a div inside here. I'm just going to create a div with a UL with 2 list items, and the list items are going to be buttons. And then this first button is going to say Google search, and then this second one is going to say I'm feeling lucky, like so. Okay, and then below this we're going to have a paragraph. Let me make it into a small tag that says Google offered in, and then this language here is going to be dependent on your region, so mine is Kiswahili. So I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to give this div a class of buttons. So save this and we can style this out. Let's see. So we're going to have this. So let's go right below this, and then let's say that for the div with the class of buttons, I just want to say text align, set this to the center. Okay, and then I want to go inside the buttons class and inside the UL, and I'm going to say display flex, which is going to display, which is going to set them in row form by default. And then I'm going to say align dash items and set this to the center, and then justify content, set this to the center as well, which is going to push them to the center. Okay, and then I'm going to set a margin on the bottom, so margin bottom of 2 rem, like so. And then I want to access each of the buttons. So for the dot buttons for the UL, there are list items inside, and I want to access the buttons, like so. And then I'm going to give these buttons a background color of hashtag this one, which is the same as, oops, okay, remove this. Okay, and then this is a bit too dark, so let me change this into E5 E5 E5. There we go. Let's give them a padding of, let's say, 0.625 rem on the top and bottom, and 1 rem on the left and right. And then for each of the list items, so I want to add a margin on the left of this button only. So I'm going to grab this right here, and I'm going to say for the list item, which is the first child, then I want to say set a margin on the right of 0.625 rem, which is going to just add a bit of separation. And then let me check something. So when you hover over it, it also has a box shadow. and the box shadow, we're just going to copy it. It's going to be the same as this one. So I'm going to say that for the dot buttons class, for the UL, for the LI, and for the button, then I want to paste in this box shadow, so that when I hover over it, then oh sorry, this is for the hover state, sorry for that. So they're going to have this. Okay, maybe probably make this a bit darker, 0.3, and there we go. And then we want to add a slate transition and the box shadow as well. So I'm going to say transition all the elements by 0.3 seconds, and then I want to add a border radius on the buttons, so border dash radius. Oh, I said box shadow, I meant border radius, so border radius of 0.2 rem. There we go. So there we go. And then let's change the cursor into pointer. So cursor, set this into pointer. And remember that in our design, this is a link, so we can style it out to look like a link by going right inside the buttons div, so for the dot buttons, and then I can access the small tag, and I can change the color for this into indigo right here, and then I can say text decoration changes into underline, and we're going to have this is the small tag. Or what am I doing? The small tag, let me place this inside a span, cut it out, place it inside a span like so that I can style it differently. Okay, so inside here I want to access the span, so that now this is the only one that is going to have the underline, and then I can have the cursor into pointer like so. And of course this does nothing because it doesn't link to any other page. However, if you're on the Google homepage, then you can see that this is going to be linking somewhere, as you can see. So now what I want to do is I want to reduce this padding a bit, okay, because these are a bit closer. So reduce this padding by just going, where is it, into this search bar section. Where did I have it? Here. So I have 6 rem on the top, 1.5 rem on the left and right, and I want to say just 2 rem on the bottom, which is going to reduce it. Okay, and then I've just realized something. This color is a bit lighter, and actually, is it white? Let me just confirm this. Is this color white? It's not completely white, so it's FEFFFE. Okay, and this extension is called what's its name? It's called Color Picker Eyedropper. So when I activate it, then if whenever I hover anywhere on the website, it's going to give me the color of that particular section, as you can see. Okay, so this is blue, it says it is hashtag 428, and you can see the red one also changes, and so on and so forth. So let's copy this color inside here, and then let me go back to the top on the body and change this color. There we go. So that now when I save this, then this is much better. Okay, and something is wrong. What is this? What is this? What is this? What are these boundaries that are here? Oh, you know what? The boundary on this image, this is because of the image itself. Let me check something. Let me go and disable this. Disable this. Yeah, so the boundary that is here is because of this image. And then for here, did I add a default padding on the UL? Where is it? Justify content here for the UL LIA. And what is this color? I'm wondering what is this color. Okay, so you know what? I think I've added a background color on some buttons somewhere. So let me just try to find where that button is. For the buttons, is it this one? Disable this. No, it's not this one. For the buttons, where did I add the background color on the buttons? This is the input. This is the label. The buttons. Where are the buttons? I can't seem to find them. Border none. Let me see. So that is the border on the button. So you know what? I can just go here and say background color, set this to transparent, and you can see that that fixes it, so that now we no longer have them, because remember these two items are placed inside buttons. Okay, so once we have this, then we can go inside these buttons and make them just a bit lighter. As you can see, just a bit lighter. So let's go inside where we have our buttons, change this color here to make it just a bit lighter. Let's see how this looks. So I think that works. So yeah, we are going to have this. And now what we're going to do is build our footer, which is on the bottom. And this the footer here is going to be positioned absolute to the bottom, so that it is never going to move, because you never have to scroll down a Google homepage. So let's go ahead and right below this, so right below this div, and just to be uniform, I can change this into a section, like so, to be uniform with these others. And I'm going to create a footer element with a class of footer, and then inside here we want to say the first item is going to be a div with a class of location, and inside here I'm just going to say Kenya. And then below this div, we're going to have a paragraph that has an image, and this image is going to be from /images, and it is called carbon. And then the text, it says carbon neutral since 2007. Okay, and then below this paragraph we have a UL that has 1 2 3 4, so 4 list items, so LI times 4. And then these are links, so if you want to add in links, then you can add them in using anchor tags, but for now I'm just going to have them as this. So this one says about, this is an advertising, this one says business, and this one says how such works. Okay, and then below this UL we have another UL, and this one has 3 list items. The first one saying privacy, the second one saying terms, and the third one saying settings. And we can begin studying this out. So I'm going to save this, and we should have this on the screen. Okay, so let's go ahead and insert our footer. So right around here I'm going to access the .footer class, and I'm going to say position this as absolute and position to the bottom by 0. And then we want to access this image to make it smaller, but let's first begin by adding a background color. So background color, set this into, what do I have? The same color that I have on the buttons, which is this one. So right inside here, set it like this, and then set the width to full so that it goes all the way to the end. So with 100%, like so. And then let's add a padding of, let's say 2 rem on the top and bottom and 1.5 rem on the left and right. So that we're going to have this. Okay. And then let's go inside this paragraph and access this image. So for the .footer, so for the .footer class and then the paragraph image, so for the .footer, the paragraph and the image, I want to set this width into 1 rem, reduce it massively, as you can see, let's say 0.9 rem. And then I want the footer to align to the center, so I'm going to go above this and access the footer paragraph. Then I'm just going to say text align center, like so, and then change the text color into this kind of gray. So I'm going to say change this text color into hashtag, let's say E5, and then we're going to just increase the intensity by dragging this downwards right around here. Still too small here. Nope, around here. Yeah, we're going to use this color for the footer. Let's see how this looks. So it has a bit of padding. So for the footer, we're going to add a padding of 1 rem on the top and bottom and 0 on the left and right. And then for this div with the class of location, we want to add this horizontal line. So I'm going to access the footer and then the div with the class of location, and then I'm going to say border dash bottom 2 pixels solid, and let's say hashtag 6f, so 6f, like so. And then what, this div should be just a bit lighter, okay. And then the reason why it doesn't go all the way to the end is because we have added a padding of 1.5 rem on the left and right. So if I remove this from here, it's going to go all the way to the end, but it doesn't because I need to add this to be 0 CSS. And then now what you can do is let's see, because I want this text to move inwards, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this, place it inside an H4, like so, and then inside here I'm going to access the location H4, And then I'm going to say change the color into hashtag 6F6F6F, and then change the font weight into normal. And then I'm going to say add a padding of 0 on the top, 0 on the right, and then 2 rem on the bottom and 1.5 rem on the left. Like so. 2 rem on the bottom is a bit too big, so let's say 1.5 rem. 1.5. And then let's reduce this to 1 pixel. And then let's deal with our ULs, which are these two ULs, which are this one and this one. So for our ULs, I'm just going to say below this, I'm going to say that for the footer, for the ULs, so both of them, I'm just going to say display flex and align item center and justify content with the center, which is going to do that. And then I'm going to add a padding. So let's see, for the first UL, I don't want a padding, but I do want a padding for the second UL. So you know what, let me do it like this. I'm going to access this one and I'm going to use the first child. So for the UL, which is the first child, I want a padding of 0 on the top, 1.5 on the left and right, and 2 rem on the bottom, pushed away from this one. But it doesn't work for some reason. So UL first child, let me see. For the footer UL, and let's see, it doesn't work. So let me grab both of these, place them inside an article, and then inside this article I'm going to place them inside here. And then let's go ahead and would you now look at that, now it works. Okay, so let's say padding of 0.5 rem on the top to push it downwards just a bit. And then I'm going to access, for the footer ULs, I'm going to access the list items inside here, change the color into hashtag 6F6F6F, like so. And then I want to reduce the font size as well. So font size, reduce this to 0.8 rem. That's too small. Let's say 0.9 rem. Okay. And then for the list items, I just want to separate them out just a bit. So I'm going to say margin on the right of 1 rem, like so. And then on small screens, let me show you something. So on small screens, what is going to happen is this. So I want that if this content reaches the end, then this one automatically goes into the next line. So I can do that right here by saying flex wrap and setting this into wrap, and it's going to do that, which means now I need to have a margin. Let me replace this margin and say that set a margin of 0 on the top, and then let's say 1 rem on the right, and then let's say 0.5 rem on the bottom and 0 on the left, and we can have this. So there we go. So it's just going to separate it out just a bit. Now would you look at this? Would you look at this? So now what I need to do, I've just realized, is on mobile screens I need to reduce this padding just a bit. So let's go ahead where we have our search bar, reduce this padding into 4 rem, move it upwards just a bit. Does it? Is it here? Padding 1 rem. Yeah, let's move it into about 3 rem. Okay, and then let me see. We also need to reduce the padding on the footer on mobile screens. So on the footer, right here, I'm going to say padding of 1 rem on the top and bottom and 0 on the left and right to reduce it just a bit. Okay, and then now what I'm going to do, what we need to do, let's see this. What we need to do is just to scale it up, I think, right? Just scale it up. So let me see how this looks on bigger screens. Okay, so on bigger screens we have this text aligning all the way. Okay, so now I've just realized that what I need to do is grab these elements, grab all of these elements, and then place them inside one article. So I'm going to move this article upwards, and let's see if anything breaks. Nothing breaks. Fantastic. And then now what I'm going to do is these three elements that are inside the articles. So the first one is these links of 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to say display flex on them. But before I do that, let me reduce the size of this paragraph. So inside the footer paragraph, I'm going to say the font size is going to be 0.9 rem. Then push it upwards, and then push this downwards. Okay. And then now this image is a bit to the top. I don't know whether you can see it, but we can fix that by just saying display flex here. So display flex, okay, which does that. And then I'm going to say align item center, which is going to now move it to the center. And then I want to bring it back here by saying justify content to the center. There we go. And then let's access this image and then just add a bit of margin on the right. So right here, I'm going to say margin dash right of 0.2 rem, just to push it away just a bit. And then let's scale this up. So let's access the art media, and I'm going to say that for a min width of 1024 pixels. Then I want to access the dot footer and the article here, and I'm going to say display flex, which is going to do this. Okay. And something is missing. So about advertising, what is missing here? Oh, nothing is missing, but this, I want this text to come first. Interesting. So when I save this, then this is going to happen. So it goes all the way to the end. And then I'm going to say align item center. Okay, and then I'm going to say justify content. So justify content to space evenly. You can use space evenly or space around. Okay, so that we're going to have this. And then once we have this, then what I want to do is we had a margin on the bottom of these links. That's why this, I don't know whether you can see it, but I feel like now I'm becoming a perfectionist, which is not good. But because we added a margin on the bottom of about 0.2 rem, so this is pushed upward just a bit. So the margin that we added is, where is it? Can't even seem to find it. So we added a margin on the bottom right here. So what I'm going to say is for the footer UL, so for the footer ULLI, I'm going to say margin bottom, set this to 0, which is going to remove it. And then now you can see that now they are perfectly aligned. Now I do know that in the design that this is to the center and then this is to the right, but you can see that it also works. And you know what, instead of using justify around, I'm going to say justify between, sorry, not justify around, but space around. I'm going to say space between, that now they're going to go all the way to the end as well, like so. And then let's add a padding here. Let's add a padding of 0 on the top and bottom and 1.5 rem on the left and right, so that they push inwards. And would you look at that? That is looking amazing. Now I do realize something. Our icon is to the left when I want it to be inside the form. So let me see where I added the max width. I added the max width on the input. Yes, I added it on the input. Okay, so I'm going to cut this out from here, and I'm going to add the max width on the form instead. Okay, because this label here, this search icon, is positioned absolute within this form. So I'm going to save this, and it should go back inside here. And then now this form pushes to the left because I need to add a margin of auto so that it goes back to the center. So now the final thing that we need to do is we need to add our bento menu, right? And that we are going to do is just create this. We're not going to add all these elements inside, but I'm just going to add a few of them, so maybe like 9 of them. And then I'm going to add our toggle. So on the top where we have our, where is it? We had an empty article here. So inside this empty article, I'm going to have a UL with list items that are going to be 9. And this first list items, they're going to be coming from Font Awesome. We're going to be getting a few of these icons from Font Awesome. Let's go back into Font Awesome. And then we want to get this one, we're just going to use our image. So first of all, let's just add our first image. Oops. Let's add our image. The source for this is going to be /images/profile.png. And then for the art, it's just going to be empty because this image is decorative. And then for the second one, we're going to have, let's see, the Google image, then the business, Google business, then maps. So let's search for this. So let's get Google. Okay, and you can see that we're not really getting the correct images inside here, right? Like we're not getting the exact images. So I'm just going to use the closest ones. So this should be FA Google, FA brands, FA Google. So copy this, paste it inside here. The third one is Google business. So Google business. or let's just get business. And if I don't get the image inside here, then I'm just going to use the closest one. So the closest one, let's just use, how does this look? Looks like a house. Okay, let's check this out. Nothing on the bottom, definitely. So I'm just going to use this briefcase. So briefcase, let's see how this we can add it in like this. Paste it inside here. Then the fourth one we need is the Google Maps, and then YouTube and Play. So Google Maps. We don't have an icon for that. So Maps. So Maps. Okay, so Google Maps, how does this icon look like? Like a location icon. So like a location icon, let's use this one, location dot. Copy this, paste it inside here. And then the next one is the YouTube and Google Play. So YouTube, right here, YouTube. Copy this link, paste it inside here, and then Google Play, which is this one right here. Copy this, paste it inside here, and then we need 3 more. So the news, the Gmail, and Google Meet. And you know what, I'm pretty sure we're not going to get this. So in case we don't get this, then I'm going to use this chat one. So news, Gmail, and Google Meet. So news, or let's say Google News. Nothing. So news. Let me get the chat one, the chat icon first. And the chat icon looks like, where is it? Almost like this, right? Almost like this. So let's get this one, copy this link and paste it inside here, which is going to, is it? Yeah, okay, paste it inside here. And then we need to get the, what was the next one? It was the Gmail and Google Meet. So Gmail. We don't have one for Gmail, so let's get the closest one. Let's just use the envelope. Copy this, paste it inside here, and then we need the Google Meet. That was the last one. So Google Meet, we don't have one. So we have our envelope, which is going to be our Gmail. And then for the FA video, I've used this to represent Google Meet. So I'm going to save this, and we're going to have these images on the screen. So we're going to style them out. Okay, so let me give this article a class of icons so that I can style it differently. And then let's go inside this styles.css, and then let's go, because this article comes after the UL. So I'm going to go inside the bento menu, and I want to access the article. So right below this, and say that for the header, for the nav, for the .bento menu, I want to access the article, and I want to have this article to have a min width of 400 pixels. Okay, because we're going to be using display grid on it. And then let's say I want to position it as absolute, so position absolute, so that now it won't affect this nav bar on top, but it does affect this. As you can see, it introduces a scroll bar. So I want to push it back into the body. So I'm going to say set it to the right by 2 rem. Okay, so now it comes here. And why do we have the hover on this? Oh, you know what? It is because of, let me show you, where is it? It's because of this. Okay, so we are inside the class of bento menu. We have a UL inside here, and we have the list items, and the list items are the dots. As you can see right here, you can see the dots 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6. So we are really creating another bento menu. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go inside here, inside this UL, give this a class of menu like so. And then I'm going to go inside my CSS. And then inside here, I'm going to say that for the UL that has a class of menu, I only want these styles to be applied. And then I'm going to do the same for this one right here for the UL with the class of menu, then access the hover state, and then right inside here as well for the UL with the class of menu like so. And then that should fix it. So let's save this. And there we go. Okay, so now we have our icons right there. Now what I want to do is access each of the icons and make them just a bit bigger. So for the article right here, copy this, paste it downwards, and then I'm going to say that for the UL, LI, and for the icons, I want this font size to increase to about 3 rem. How does that look? Okay, so we're going to have that. That's too big, so 2 rem. So that we're going to have that. And then I'm going to go into each of the ULs. So right below this, for the UL, and not below it, but above it. So right here, I'm going to say for this one, then let's say display grid. Okay, and then I'm going to say grid template columns. I want this to repeat 3 times and 1 fractional column each, 1 FR. So that we're going to have this. And then I want to reduce the size of this image. So I'm going to go inside the list items inside here. And I'm going to say that for the image, then I want this width to be 2 rem, the same as the font size, so that it's going to reduce like so. And what icon is supposed to be here? This is the Google Play icon. So after the Google Play, we have messages. So messages is not showing. So let's say, let's get another icon for the chat. Okay, let's see which one. Let's say message dots. Copy this one and replace it with this. So replace this I with this. Okay, and wait, nothing shows. Still nothing shows. Interesting. I'm going to fix that later. For now, let's just style this out. And then what I'm going to do is I want each of these icons to have a color of #333 instead of being completely black. And then let's see what we can do. So repeat 1 FR. Let's add a grid gap here of 1 rem to separate them out just a bit. Let me see how this looks. Okay, so when you hover over them, it has a blue background color, a bluish background color. So I'm going to access the list items inside here. So above this, and I'm going to say that when I hover over the list items, then I want the background color to be #FFF, and then let's select the blue color using our color picker. So right around here, let's select this color, very slight blue. Okay, and we're going to have this. Okay, and then I want these items to move to the center. So let's see if we can do that by saying place item center here. So place items to the center. Okay, so that we're going to have this. And then let's add some padding on the list items, and not even on the list items, but on the icons. Let's add a padding all around of about 2 rem. Okay, we are now making it bigger. 2 rem is a bit big, so let's say 1 rem. Okay, we're going to have this, and then I'm going to reduce the min width. Where did I have the min width? Here, I'm going to reduce this to 300 pixels. Okay, would you look at that? And then I want to do the same for this image because I want the image to also have the same padding, right? So let's go ahead into this image. I'm going to have a padding of 1 rem. Okay, and the image moves out. Oh, you know what? The image is shrunk because the padding is applied inside the image. So I'm going to remove this. Okay, so we can work with this, and then let's just change the cursor to pointer right inside here. Let's say cursor, change it to pointer. Okay, there we go. And then now what I want to do is inside this entire article, I want it to have a background color of white. Is it? Yeah, and then I want it to have a box shadow. So inside the UL, which is not the UL, sorry, but the article, I'm going to say give this a background color of white, and then give it a box shadow of 2 pixels, 2 pixels, 2 pixels, and RGBA this one, let's say 0.3. Okay, so that we're going to have this. And you know what, let me add a spread radius here of 2 pixels as well, so that we can see this other edge as well. And then let's add a border radius, so border dash radius, set this to about 0.625 rem. And then now that is set to the right, I also want to set it to the top by 2 rem, so that it moves downwards. And you know what, I've just realized something, that this is position absolute, but the menu, the actual parent, is not position relative. That's why it goes on top of it. So I want to go inside the bento menu here, and then I'm going to say position relative, like so. So now it's going to be positioned within the bento menu, and you can see that now that it is positioned within the bento menu, then we need to go back inside our article, and we don't need to have this right of 2 rem, or we do. Okay, so let's reduce this to 1.5 rem, let's say 1 rem, and then let's increase this top to about 4 rem, push it even downwards. Okay, so that we're going to have this. Okay, so this is just a simple enough menu. Now what we need to do is add the toggle for it, right? So now what we need to do is we need to add a class on this article that is going to check for whether it is open or not. So I'm going to add a class here and say that when the article has a class of open, then what I want to do is see these classes right here. So for this one, as well as for this one, and right inside here, and you know what, probably all of these classes, you know what, let me just cut them out and paste them inside here. And then here I'm going to say set the opacity to 0 and set it to the top by minus let's say minus 100 viewport heights to push it outwards. And okay, that breaks things, so let's remove this, and let's see. So this still needs to be positioned absolute, that's what's happening. And then let's remove this, let's add this back in, sorry, not remove it, like so. And so now we're going to be checking using our JavaScript for whether the article has a class of open. So inside here, I want to access this article that has a class of icons in our JavaScript. So we created an index.js file. No, we did not. So let's create an index.js file, index.js, and then let's link it on the bottom right here before the closing body tag. Let's link our script / index.js. And then what we're going to do is inside here, I want to get the article that has a class of icons, and then I also want to get the bento menu. And let me just check this out. The bento menu should be this class right here, but I want to access this button. So I'm going to give this button an ID of menu. Okay, so this is an ID of menu, this is a class of menu. I hope that doesn't confuse you. So I'm going to save this, and then inside here I want to grab our button first. So I'm going to say const bento menu. Let me just call this menu is equal to document dot query sorry, not query select, but get element by ID, and it's called menu. And then we want to get the icon, so we want to get the article, so const article is equal to document dot query selector, and I want to get the class of dot icons. Okay, and then I'm going to add an event listener on the menu button, so add event listener, and we're listening for a click event. So when I click on the button, then I want to add the class of this article, so I'm going to say article dot class list dot toggle, and we're toggling the class of open. And when I save this, I can try it out by clicking on this. Okay, so something does happen, and I realize that something happens because this horizontal scroll bar is introduced, right? So that would mean, oops, so that would mean that I have not reset the style that brings it downwards, because I set it to the top by minus 100 viewport heights. So let's see what is happening. Actually, I have set it here. So what we need to do is the opacity is set to 0 here. So right here, I'm going to say below this, I'm going to say set the opacity to 1. Okay, so let's try it out. And there we go. Would you look at that? So we have our icons working correctly, and something is wrong. Why do we have this scroll bar? Is it because of this one? Let's see. Let's also set it to the right here by 1 rem. Okay, there we go. So it gets rid of that scroll bar. And then now what we need to do is just maybe style this out a bit better. So let's reduce the what's it called, the width of this article. Just to style it out a bit better, let's reduce it to 200. Okay. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go inside these list items and add a slight border radius. So where we have our hover here, let's also add a border radius. Oh, sorry, not on hover really, but on the list items. So I'm going to copy this upwards, and I'm going to say that for the add a border radius of 0.6 to 5 rem. Okay, so that we're going to have that. That is looking much better. And I don't know why this icon is not appearing, but as you can see that this grid is also showing. And that is our bento menu. So in the next project, we're going to be dealing with our final project, which is going to be another website, another full-scale website. So see you in a few. Please subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and ring the notification bell so that you're always going to be notified of when I upload a new video.